We've got a few bottles on our counter here today. We're not drinking all of them, but we just want to highlight some of the best Pacific Northwest whiskeys there are. We're from Washington, so these are Washington and Oregon whiskeys, and we think you should try more local whiskey. Hi friends, I'm Laura, this is Troy, we're Baker.drinks. These are our 10 Pacific Northwest whiskeys that we've found and enjoyed so far.
Yeah, so a few years back, Pacific Northwest was like the craft brewery mecca of America, with literally hundreds of craft brewers throughout Washington, Oregon.
So many. No complaints.
And now it's transitioning into the whiskey world. We're like the mecca for craft whiskeys.
I think craft in general just kind of fits that Pacific Northwest
for
vibe.
For sure. So a lot of these are distilled right here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, specifically on the table. We didn't venture into Idaho yet, but we probably will in the future. Some of them are sourced. They bring in whiskey, but they put a Northwest spin on it, either with some special finishing in local oak or finishing in local wines. Some of them are like, what do they call that? Grain to glass right here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yep, because grains grow well here. So
it sure does.
Yep.
So there's bourbon, rye, and single malts on the table in front of us. Some are finished, some are not. We're just going to kind of rank through. These are the 10 best according to Baker.drinks currently.
But we are planning to try more. We just haven't ventured out far enough. Sometimes it's hard to find craft.
Yeah. So admittedly, we're not the best source for this. We've not drank through. Like I said, this could probably be a 5-part series with 10 bottles each time, and we wouldn't even touch them all. Check out Mark over at Northwest Bourbon. He specializes in Pacific Northwest distillers.
Same with Bourbon Van.
Bourbon Van.
We haven't tried nearly the amount of Northwest
correct
bourbons that they have.
But these are the 10 that we have on the shelf here in our home, and we're going to drink through 2 of them. Laura mentioned in our last bottle haul that reviews would be coming, so we're gonna review the 2-bar and the Brown Family Spirits real quick here, and then we're gonna touch through the rest of these. So the 2-bar, this is their bottled and bond. It's a bourbon, and it's out of Seattle, Washington. It's all grain to glass as far as I know. It's got a very unique profile.
I feel like it smells finished.
It's so like
wine, or
on the nose it's very wine smelling, but on the palate I get a lot of you couldn't convince me that's not a single malt.
I think that's why I'm getting a wine type smell. It's got to be a high malt. It probably doesn't say on the bottle. I mean, we're no experts here. We just have bottled and bond, 100% truth, and all the proof you'll need. 2-bar.
So I get a lot of coffee on the finish.
Yep.
I get a lot of
tobacco, like a cigar.
Cigar, like a lot of dark chocolate. It's certainly.
It's interesting.
It stands out from the crowd as the most off-profile bourbon. Again, you could tell me this was a single malt, and I'd be like, okay, that's really good.
Yeah. Someone that's looking for a bourbon may not love it. But because we enjoy single malts, this is right up our profile here.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's the thing with craft distillers. There's a lot of interesting things that they do. It may not be what you expect from like a Kentucky bourbon. You know what to expect when you see straight Kentucky bourbon on a label.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily know what to expect with a craft distillery, but I thoroughly enjoy that. I think it's interesting. I think it's different, which is what I want on the shelf. I want to have everything be different, so it's not like, okay, which exactly the same bottle do I want? I want something different, and that's an enjoyable difference.
So if I was to go to like a bottle share outside of the state of Washington, I would bring this bottle and put it on there, and I guarantee you people would be tasting that and asking me all kinds of questions, because it literally does not taste like a bourbon. It tastes like a single malt. But it is a bottled in bond bourbon. It tastes like a finished single malt. It's really, really good.
Or, they might pass it up, because when you go to a bottle share, it's
a plain label.
It's a plain label, but what's inside the bottle is what counts.
These local small craft distillers don't have the budget that the legacy distillers out of Kentucky have. They can't put a lot of pomp and circumstance into their presentation. They let the flavor speak for itself, and it may not hold up to some of those legacy distillers, but it certainly is interesting, and I recommend if you find 2 Bar bottled in bond, you give it a try.
Yeah. So this next one is brown straight rye whiskey. So this is 45% alcohol, so 90 proof. A low proof, not crazy dark, so I wouldn't expect super old. I don't really know how old it is. This is out of Spokane, Washington, so another Washington whiskey. This one's rye.
So formerly they were known as Warrior Liquor, something like that. They did a lot of flavored whiskeys, and you probably have seen them if you've been into Total Wine. Warrior Liquors. They had like raspberry and peanut butter and all the different flavors. They brought in a master distiller out of Kentucky. It's family owned and operated. It's a little crafty on the nose.
Maybe a little malty.
Yeah,
as well.
it smells malty, but I'm guessing that's just youth.
Youth, crafty.
I don't know the age, but
It's sweet.
Super sweet, almost like cereal grain, and that's probably the age.
But there's no bad aftertaste.
No, this is not off-putting at all.
It's easy to drink. It's sweet. It may not be as interesting as this, but it's probably more approachable.
Yeah, and for a rye whiskey, if you're just like a hardcore bourbon guy or gal, and you're wanting to venture outside of the bourbon world, this is one that you could probably be like scratching into that rye universe with. Yeah. Because it's not minty.
Nope.
It's not herbally.
It's got a lot of sweetness, caramel.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me even of like a wheat whiskey more than a rye whiskey. It's kind of got that creamy, grainy note, I guess. But no complaints there.
Yeah, I could pour that and enjoy that pretty much any night after work.
What do we have next?
Okay, so next, you probably all have heard of Woodinville.
They have done well.
This is actually a pick, but this is their whiskey.
They'll come in that square bottle.
Yeah, I don't really remember who bought Woodinville a few years ago.
Someone with a lot of money.
Yeah, someone with a lot of money, as it typically goes. But Woodinville out of Woodinville, Washington, is putting out some fantastic stuff. Their straight bourbon, their straight rye are both good, and they've got some finished stuff. We've got like a an applewood, a smoked apple or toasted applewood stave finished. Their muscatel finished is just fantastic. They're doing some great things in Woodinville. It's a beautiful campus. Woodinville, Washington is an awesome place to visit. If you get a chance to find one of these on the shelf and you're wondering, don't wander any further because they're pretty darn good. Next
we have this beautiful teardrop bottle. They definitely spent some time on their design. This is very special. This is Freeland Spirits. It's out of Portland, Oregon. This one's a straight rye whiskey finished in Pinot Noir, and I absolutely love this bottle and everything we've tried. We're actually going to visit their distillery in October, and I'm really excited about it. It's a female-owned distillery, and they definitely take pride in being female-owned. They like to finish their stuff in like this Pinot Noir is a female-owned company as well, so they like to.
Portland Winery.
That's their pride, is that they like to make sure that they're supporting women in this alcohol industry. But the whiskey inside of it is fantastic.
It is sourced from MGP, I believe, but as I said before, it's got that Northwest spin on it. It's finished in a Pacific Northwest owned winery barrel.
So this distillery, they make their own gin. That's what they started with. They started making gin, and then they've branched out into bourbons and ryes, but that's like a small market for them. But they do these really small batch finished whiskeys that are pretty limited. They're hard to find, but they are fantastic. And, if you like MGP rye and then finished, these are so good.
It is so good.
We tried one at a bar, and then we went on a hunt for them because they're hard to find. Even though we live so close, they do like releases, and if you're not part of it, then it's hard to find. So definitely, if you're in the Portland area, that's one I definitely recommend. I don't know how far out they go, but it's easy to spot on the shelf.
It's a very distinct bottle.
Nothing else is shaped like that. It's
such an awesome pour. Next on the list is Bull Run Distillery. It's also out of Portland, Oregon. So Bull Run, they kind of made a big splash on the national market a few years ago with their American whiskey finished in Pinot Noir, I believe. It was like 14, 15 years old.
Don't we have that?
We do.
Okay.
Okay. But their American whiskey and their bourbon is sourced from MGP.
And their rye.
And their rye. No, their rye is local. They make the rye.
Oh, I thought they only made the single malt.
The single malt, which I have here, and this one is actually finished in Madeira, which is our favorite finish.
It's so good.
They've also got a maple syrup infused whiskey that is amazing. Anyways, Bull Run out of Portland, Oregon, they're doing some fantastic things. Their master distiller was the guy who started Aviation Gin.
He also was involved in the wine industry. He's been involved, I think he was in the beer industry as well. He's kind of dabbled in all of them, but his passion is single malts. So that's where his focus is now. He's transitioned to that. He was fun to talk to. You can tell he's passionate about what he does. He's knowledgeable. He knows like everything about the alcohol industry because he's worked in all aspects of it.
Yeah.
So it was fun to visit. I'm happy we'll be going back in October for the Bourbon Van meetup. So I'm happy to go back there. So
speaking of Bourbon Van,
that's a good transition. So this next one is Trail's End. This is again an MGP. They use MGP whiskey, but they have a spin on it as well. This one's a pick from Bourbon Van. That's where the
Hood River, Oregon.
Hood River, Oregon, and then they finish it in Oregon oak. So they put their Oregon flavor on it by using Oregon oak for the finish. And then this one is a single barrel cask strength, so it's different than what you find on the shelf. But the normal Trails in 10 is also great.
It's so
flavor, but a cask strength, I mean, of course that's going to be better.
And Bourbon Van had to flex their clout a little because that is the first single barrel and the first cast strength
yeah.
from Trail's End 10, and it is just so amazing. I'm so happy we got that bottle.
Me too.
Okay, so next on the list we got Doc Swenson's. Doc Swenson's is sourced MGP. I'm sure you've heard everybody in the whiskey tube universe talking about Doc Swenson's lately as the best blenders. They're Ferndale. I knew it was Ferndale or Lakewood. I knew that's same area, right?
Northern Washington,
Yeah.
for those not in the area.
So their bottles coming out of MGP, they just blend so well. So they've got the Alter Ego. This is the finished in rum. They've got the single barrels, which are like head and shoulders above this guy. We've also got the experimental series, the Smoke on Water, which is a rye finished in peated Scotch barrels.
It's interesting. I actually enjoy that one a lot.
Everything Doc Swenson's is doing is just amazing these days. If you have a chance to find a Doc Swenson's, and especially the one with the wax top, it's something special. Pick it up. You will not be disappointed.
And they don't have bad price points. They're $50-ish. I think.
So 50 up to about 90 for the single barrels that I'm talking about with the wax.
Okay,
But they're readily available.
I mean, they I would say are probably the easiest to find nationwide out
Yes.
of the, well, maybe not the Wooden Bill, but out of the rest of these, they're possibly the easiest to find.
Sure.
So next, we're getting into single malts here. So I know you're not all into single malts, but the Pacific Northwest makes some amazing single malts. I don't know if it's because the grain is grown here.
They've been doing it longer than anybody.
That's true. They've been doing it longer, so they know what they're doing. But it's also maybe the climate. Whatever the reason is, single malts from the Pacific Northwest are absolutely fantastic. So this first one, we enjoy, but it would probably be harder for other people to enjoy that might not be into Scotch or single malts in general, because this one's peated, and this is McCarthy's. So they are known for, oh, this is getting way low. I
know, it's so sad.
this is McCarthy's.
So sad.
And they're from, I believe, Hood River. They make amazing American single malts. I believe they source their peat from Scotland.
Probably, yeah.
To make this peated single malt. It is fantastic. I've seen people blind it and think that they're drinking an Islay Scotch. Mm-hmm. This one specifically is a PX sherry cask finished, aged 6 years, Hood River, Oregon, barrel aged in Oregon oak, 112.2 proof. So you get that Scotch flavor, but you get proof with it. It's fantastic. I love it, and I think people that like Scotch, that's a brand that they definitely should go to.
Oh yeah, 100%. So that one and the next two, we really struggled with where we would place them in our order because, you know, in theory this is number 10 through 1, and the top 3 are like a virtual tie. They're all just so good. And on that note, this is Westland out of Seattle, Washington. It is an American single malt. This is a single barrel. It's Mash and Journey, the Mecca Lecca High Mecca Malty Ho. It is the Big Vic pick. And it used to have Big Vic's signature right here on the side.
Sorry, my fingers.
But Laura kind of rubbed it off. So anyways, this guy right here, it's like chocolate, coffee. It's just so stinking good. It's fruity. It's deep, dark, complex.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
I mean, the argument could be made that this could be the best out of the Pacific Northwest. We put it in second place because this next one coming up is such a hitter and so much more available. But anyways, the Westland single malt, single barrels, if you see them on the shelf, don't sleep on them. They're so good.
And then last, definitely not least, Another iconic bottle shape. It's like a diamond, I think, is probably what they were going for.
The geometric bottle.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I think it might just be like they tried to cut it like a diamond or something. It's a beautiful bottle, but this is Westward Whiskey. This is an American single malt company. It's out of Portland, Oregon, and this one specifically is one that's on their shelf. We're part of their club, so we get their special releases every 3 months, but this one is on the shelf. Anyone can find it, and it is the cask strength, 125 proof. So Westward, another company, it's all about the grain to glass. The barley is grown in the Pacific Northwest. The used barley, after they make their mash, is then given to a company that makes dog treats out of it, and their whole operation is here. So they have the distillery in Portland. The warehouse where they age it is not far from Portland, like southern.
It's southern Willamette Valley. Also of note, the yeast that they use for their single malt is the same yeast that Sierra Nevada Pale Ale uses, if you've had that beer. And when we toured the distillery and they gave us a sample of the beer before they distill it, they could have probably bottled that and sold it to us, and we'd have been real happy because it was just that good. They spend a lot of extra time at Westward in that making. That process, yeah. They spend like 3 times as long as most companies before they take it to first distillation.
I think it's like a week that it's fermenting, because it's a much slower fermentation process than other companies use. Yeah,
and I've not done the research, but the tour guide we had said this was the #1 rated American single malt for
I have seen ads that say that as well.
Yeah.
And I can see why. It is fantastic.
It is so good.
It is extremely fruity. There's no peach, there's chocolate
fruity.
And fruit, and it's complex and cask strength. I mean, that's going to make anyone happy.
You cannot go wrong with that pour. You will be amazed. I don't care if you like single malt or not.
Yeah, actually, when we went, we didn't like single malt. We just wanted to try local whiskey. So
I was in such a bad mood when we went on that distillery tour because it's downtown Portland. The drive to get there is ridiculous. Every street had construction or a dead end. We were late for our tour. They actually called us and was like, "Hey, we're waiting for you guys. Are you coming?" Yeah. We got there. They welcomed us with open arms. They gave us mini cocktails. They took us on a world-class tour. When the tour was over, we did a tasting, and they brought us literally everything they had in their inventory.
Yep, even stuff you can't buy. It was fantastic. They were great.
It was such a good experience.
Their whiskey is great. So it was a lot of fun. It got us hooked on it, and now we're loyal customers.
Fanboys.
Yeah, so these are our 10 so far favorite Pacific Northwest pours. I'm sure that it will be changing soon because we plan on trying more and taking you along with us on that journey.
Yes. And like I said before, if you want to know more about Pacific Northwest beyond this list of 10, check out Mark over at Northwest Bourbon. He is, or the Bourbon Van, I'm sure you've all heard of them. But those guys are the resident experts on Northwest. We're playing catch up, but we'll get there.
We're doing our best.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
Cheers.
Cheers. I just want to remind you guys that I will be doing a giveaway once I hit 1,000 subscribers on my live stream. We will be giving away a Henry McKenna 10, an Eagle Rare, and a Blanton's. I just need you to subscribe, share my videos, leave comments, anything you can, and then join on the live stream once we hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching. Cheers.